Welcome to the Real Life Man podcast, where we discuss masculinity, faith, and the struggles we don't always talk about. Just talking about fathers, but yes, I think uh, how do we ask as men what to our fathers, like what is it supposed to all mean? How are we supposed to function as men? And I thought about that a lot, and I was like feeling like, okay, I'm not very well equipped as a man, but I also have a lot of grace for my dad just because I'm like, okay, actually, he was born inside of this baby boomer era where he had I mean, he had contact with his father, but and he would actually say he had a great relationship with his dad. Uh, whereas I'm not sure if I want to publish this episode just for saying this, but like he has a great relationship with his dad, but he actually really can't tell you what kind of quality time he ever had with them. It was always
Mhm.
corporate with someone else, like with the church. Like he put on events for us, and he was with, the church leader, and he was charismatic. But I'm like, well, when did you get words of affirmation from your dad? Or when did he, call you up into manhood? And I know from a fact that like my aunt was just it was hard for her to have my grandpa as a father. And she feels like she had missed out on a lot. Sorry. And so, anyways, it was just interesting because now we have this baby boomer generation, and they really don't have a good model or sense of what it means to be
Yeah.
parents to men or women. And I think they're
hmm
just kind of like they're lost, right? They don't have a very good, what do you call that? Yeah, they don't have a very good they don't have a playbook. And now we saw
Yeah.
the errors that they made, and we're trying to build playbooks off of that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that makes sense or not, you know?
It does. It does. I feel like we talk about like the baby boomers' parents, like the silent generation and all those folks. Like my dad, his parents were 19 and 18 when he was born,
Hmm.
and he was the third kid.
19
So
and 18 when he was born, and he was the third kid. Oh my
either
goodness.
19 or maybe 19 and 20. Yeah. He has twin older siblings. And he doesn't talk to us. Growing up, he never talked to us about his upbringing. I've only been able to mostly pull it out of my uncle. And like, I hear about some of the things my dad did, and I'm like, who is this person? I don't know who this person is. Like, he was leading these anti-Vietnam War protests. He was getting into political fights with my grandpa, and I only remember him like walking lockstep with my grandpa and everything. So what happened? Who is this guy? Um, and I have asked him that, and I haven't ever really gotten an answer. But I also know, and he's mentioned this, that his dad never told him that he loved him. Like he
Mhm.
never heard that from his father. I haven't asked him about one-on-one time. I know that grandpa used to have my dad work for him. So I guess that might be one-on-one time, but it's work. It's like
Mhm.
you're out doing lumbering trees. It's not the same. So I always kind of wondered for a long time. This was the example my dad had of a Christian household, and why did he stick with it? Like, what is there for him? I had an interesting conversation with one of the pastors at our church, and I told him, yeah, I was raised Dutch Reform. He's like, oh, huh, that's interesting. They're um they're a little rigid, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I mean
So
it's
I've
interesting because it's true, right? They didn't have very much to, I mean, I'd say not very much to work off of. More so just working in the field with the father, I think does bring some sort of like when if you think about it, before the Industrial Revolution, families were working together, right? That was a big thing. The big shift was the Industrial Revolution, and
mhm.
we're seeing the repercussions of that, like post post that generation. And so you see these families and how the family was structured is like man and woman work together alongside the children Excuse me, I drink bubbly water. And basically, they're super prideful of what they're building together as a couple. They're hand in hand, and then they also work alongside their kids, and their kids are the pride of their labor as well. That's a huge part of it. But then the Industrial Revolution comes around and says, actually, the man needs to go out of the house and live.
Hmm.
The wife needs to take care of everything at home, does not get to have that same satisfaction. The marriage is broken, or at least they're not as intertwined as they were before. And now the kid is only seeing the mother versus seeing the mother and the father interact on the daily.
Mm.
And so now you just have this whole like new system. And we have the next generation, which is the baby boomer, right? And that's what they come up with. And they're like, well, that's what fatherhood or motherhood are. That's the gender norm. And it's like, well, wait, I want to kind of push back on that because the gender norm is not, what do you call that? The gender norm should not be, what do you call that? Uh, you know, what we see today
Yeah.
in that in that in that framework. Because all around the world you have different gender norms, but it's still very much like, the father does this, the mother does that. Yes, they're going to be very different. But yeah, the way that we've defined it in Christianity today, I feel like is somewhat misplaced. But yeah, anyway,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we have to go with what the Bible says. And I don't see anywhere where it says, like, fathers, thou shalt not care for your children. I don't
no.
I don't see anywhere where it's saying be disengaged. And I know I want to honor my dad. He wasn't completely disengaged. I understand that a lot of why he was the way he was he didn't want to propagate what his dad did to him.
Hmm.
Um, and I might not like all the side effects of that, but I understand and I really appreciate that was his way of protecting me. So I can see, and there are definitely dads out there. I see that they grew up in abusive households. That's not what happened with my dad, but they grew up in problematic households, and they just want to make sure like I don't want to make those same mistakes. But I also see this problem where people are really bad at living in balance. So we see things swing one way and we're like, that's terrible. And then we swing completely the other way without realizing that's terrible too. And you need to live in the middle. Like life, it feels like is a lot of tension.
Hmm.
And it's hard. I'm not saying we like it, but that's where it seems like life is best. That's kind of, I feel like that's where God intended us to live. Like this life, yes, we've been saved, we're going to go to heaven, but we're still here right now. And we're
Hmm.
in this tension. We're in this world where
Tension is
we're
there,
afflicted
man.
by sin. Yeah, we're afflicted by sin, whatever those are. And what are we going to do with that?
And in the Bible also brings us still be on to honor our father and mother, like they're there, and we are to honor our parents of with what they were able to do with what they had as well, right? And saying like, yeah, it wasn't perfect, and no parent is going to be perfect, and I'm not going to be perfect, so I have to be able to extend that grace that I haven't gotten from my parents are excellent. They were amazing. Like on the world scale, my parents are at like a 99 out of 100, like perfection, comparatively to the rest of the planet. Like I had amazing parents, and yet there's still that space where it's like, yeah, no, they weren't perfect and they missed things, and it wasn't always okay. And I gotta come at peace with that, and I also don't want to reproduce it. And I'm also going to forgive them because I'm
Hmm.
going to do the same with my kids. Like I'm going to be in that same place. My kids are going to judge me just as much as I have judged my parents, right? And so
Yeah.
that's kind of where I want to be able to remind myself, remind everyone to be like, hey, our parents aren't perfect. They're sinners, just like you and me are. And
Yeah.
and they don't have the playbook. Like when what you have your kids at 16 for the first time, like our grandparents had, they didn't know how to be parents out of nothing. Like, what do you do with that? What does that even mean being a parent at 18, 19, 20? Like I became a father at 27, I believe, and that was still like mind-boggling. I still don't know how to be a dad, you know? And okay, well, you go with what you've got, but also you search for counsel, you search for wisdom from other people that have done it well, and
Mhm.
also listen to the stories of people that haven't done it well and take note, you
Yeah.
know? And so,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, so how to it's I think that also gets into like the living in community with other people. And so, in the church, I feel like we're drawn to live in that community. And that's also just a built-in set of people that share your same values, that want the same good outcomes for your kids. And those are the people you can really draw on. I've been talking with other dads in a similar situation, like with young kids, like I have, like, what did you do with this? What about that? Or if you have some of those more experienced people in your church or elderly people that have raised kids, I mean, they're amazing. Like
mhm.
Chris has raised kids. He knows he knows like he's like, well, don't do this or do these things. And that's really, really helpful.
Not to call Chris out, but he's actually talked a lot about how he's done mistakes and or how he's crushed the spirit of one of his daughters, especially. He has this really good story. I'll let him tell it. But it's like very clear that like you come into fatherhood and you're going to be making a bunch of mistakes. And now it's just like, okay, once I do the mistake, because I'm going to make them, now I need to be able to come back to my child and say I'm sorry because it sucks
Yeah.
to be a child. They are the least, what do you call that? Protected people group out there. And it's like there's nobody that's going to advocate for them. They're not going to
Hmm.
advocate for themselves, and nobody's going to advocate for them if it isn't going to be you. So if you're not protecting them from yourself, then nobody will. And so I think that that's where I want to try and come back to both my kids being like, I'm really sorry for what I did. That was not cool. I should have not,
Yeah.
whatever that may be, because you can feel when you've hurt your kids' feelings or crushed their spirits, as Chris would say. So it's
Yeah.
like, okay, now that's going to happen. Actually, it's not, don't do that. It's like, no, it's
Yeah.
going to happen. And now how do you deal with that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you. I never remember growing up hearing my dad ever apologize for anything he did. And so I had no playbook. Like, and I'm very well aware of the times I've really failed my kids, the things, ways I've messed them up, and things like that. Um, And so I've been very intentional lately, going back to him and say, "Hey, I did this thing. I'm sorry." And it's really fun to watch. I mean, it's humbling for me to do, but it's good to watch how much they light up, how much they really like they know. Because of course they know something's wrong. I mean,
Hmm.
our kids aren't dumb. They know something's up. They know that this is not normal. They're upset for a reason. And to have their parent come back to them and say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I did this thing. It was wrong." Um, they need that. I mean, they need to know that.
Hmm. Best interpreters, worst, no, best observers, worst interpreters, right? So
Yeah.
they just won't
Yeah.
know what they won't know. Yeah, and then it comes to the question of like, okay, now we are men and we can observe. We've observed how our parents did it, and then we have our wives too. So that's that. I feel like
Yeah.
there's the relationship towards our kids. There's a relationship as fathers, right? And then there's the relationship towards our wives. And what does that bring? Because that opens up another can of worms that I know we could
Yeah.
probably talk about a whole other 50 minutes on. But um, what is it that you do differently today with your wife that you see that you didn't see your dad do with your
Hmm.
mom?
Hmm. That's a good question. I feel like my wife and I have a different relationship, a different kind. But um, hmm, I'm not sure how to put it. It's just a different kind of relationship because lately we were talking the other day about how we both feel like we've gone through this journey in our faith together. And I know my parents did too, but they went on a journey more of watching churches splinter, watching pastors get defrocked, and then where to go from there. Um, but my wife and I have been more on a journey. I think we both would say, and I don't like this term, but deconstruction, like deconstructing our faith. I don't like the term because it has so much baggage. What I mean by
Hmm.
it is that, like, our faith growing up, both of our faiths was very rigid, and you have to do this and do this and do this, and it really builds a problematic relationship with God because you forget about grace. You forget about you can't really do it yourself. And yes, no pastor in those denominations is going to say you can earn your own faith, you can earn your way to heaven. Um, but when you see how people really are, that's kind of what they're doing. And so we've been on this longer journey about, okay, what exactly is Christianity to us? What exactly, what's really important? Um, so like for me, one of the big changes, and this is gonna, I know this will sound silly to a lot of our listeners too. I was raised Calvinist and Reformed, and I'm willing to go in for a long time. I was really struggling going to a church that was not that didn't have infant baptism. Like that was a huge problem for me, something I really struggled with. Um, but now, like we've kind of come to the point where, like, as long is what's being preached biblical?
Right.
Maybe we'll disagree on this thing, but is this really what matters? Because previously I would have just isolated myself and not gone to a church, and that's so much worse of a position to be in.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
No, I mean, I totally understand your idea of like deconstruction and because it is a charged word, but for me it was this, I mean, I think growing up in in a place where we also had struggled with same-sex attraction, right? What is it
Mm,
that it means? Does God not love me because I have this SSA that's kind of stuck to my skin and I don't want it, but it's there and like it makes me feel like I'm disgusting, and everything that I
yeah,
hear from or being communicated by my church was, you know, it's evil. They should never live. They don't have any, there's no good that comes out of it. They're the the homosexual population and the way that they were being seen was such in a negative light. It's like you don't want to even try and be associated to them. But then meanwhile you have this kid, me, that is struggling with this, and it's like, well, what do I do with that? And does that mean if I let anyone know, will they like me?
yeah,
Will they love me anymore? And that's the huge fear, right? And so then it's like, okay, well now I am a Christian and I believe that God loves me, and I know that He cares way more about my soul and uh, than the ideologies that maybe my church outputs. 'Cause it's coming from a good place. These churches are coming at it from a good place. The way that they've exposed it over the last 30 years was not the right way to go about
yeah,
it. And I think that for me, I had to deconstruct and be like, wait, well, what is it that I actually do believe? Uh, I'm I'm wanting to I'm wanting to deconstruct because I feel like all of these churches feel like they have all of the right responses, but then you look at their actions and you look at how they talk about certain people, and it's like, really, is that what we're going to be standing for as Christians? Like, I'm not okay with that, and yet I still know that God is true and good, and I want to follow what he has to say. And so I think that the church is just another version of like what parents are, right? And they're an imperfect version of the bride that's going to be marrying
yeah,
Christ. And so now it's like, okay, well, you have this body of people that talk, and you're just like, These people drive me nuts." And at the same time, well, it opens me up. It's like, okay, let me see what the whole spectrum believes. What do Catholics believe? What do
yeah,
Protestants believe? How does a Calvinist differ from, Protestantism? All of these things you can deconstruct, but then it's saying, okay, well, at the basics, what am I? And actually, I've kind of come to the conclusion where it's like, I love, I love God, and I know God loves me, and He wants me to be on this earth for a specific mission. Like He's got a job for me, and
hmm,
I'm going to go inside of the body of believers that I know follows the Bible, and they may differ on things that I believe with, like just women in the church or there's certain rules where I'm just like, no, sorry, that's not going to fly. Like, you can't be, you can't be living a homosexual lifestyle and still call yourself a Christian and be fine with that. Like there's certain
Yeah,
standards, right? And so but in all that to say, like we were in a very charismatic church when we were in California, and now where we're living here today, we're in a much more conservative church. And it's like, okay, well, it doesn't fit the bill, but the body of believers that are there is what makes up this church. And we're really looking more at the heart of the people rather than the message coming out of the pulpit, right? And we're wanting to see like what are their hearts well intentioned and can we come close to them? Can we, you know, I think that's a lot of it too is like a big body of believers. If you go to a mega church, it just doesn't feel the same as
it's
if,
hard.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
super hard. So, anyways, that's kind of where I guess I haven't really answered that question very well either, but you
Okay.
know,
Yeah. I mean, we're part of Presbyterian Church in America right now. And actually, most Presbyterian churches in America probably like 1 to 200 members. This one, I think, is 1,300. It's huge for a Presbyterian church in America. And so they've been trying to be very intentional about how do we build community amongst these people. And they have staff dedicated toward building community groups and connecting people. And it's really, really nice because even at some of these smaller churches, there are plenty of people that just come in on Sunday and just circle right back out,
hmm
and then you never get to know them. So that intentionality that they have of bringing people together and keeping them together, it's really, really good. And I really appreciate that. And I know there was a mega church that we didn't go to where we lived last, but they also were really good about being very intentional about building community.
hmm
It's the one where that man talked about being molested and the other one talked about his porn problem. Like they were really, really good and intentional about talking about really hard, important things and building community amongst the members. It was a Baptist church, but I mean, if I could do everything again, I would go there in a heartbeat because it was so much better than where we were going. And we were going to this church with like 30 or 40 people, and it was shedding members left and right. And the pastor, um, it, he, I feel like the doctrinal purity in him burns so bright that it burns right through the congregation and they leave the door. Um,
Like, okay, you got great doctrine, but how do you actually treat your people? That's
yeah,
that's a huge gripe of mine. It's like, wait, the people, Jesus came for the people. He didn't come for the doctrine. He was the
yeah,
doctrine,
yeah.
incarnate, and he was going to the poorest of the poor. Like, how can we not model that? And yet we have our own pitfalls, so I get that. So,
Yeah. I mean, churches are made of people. We're not perfect yet. So
no, no.
we can't be surprised when these things happen. But how do people try to recover from it? I think that's kind of what it is. I mean, I ended up talking to this pastor one on one saying, you know, I was molested as a kid and I struggled with same-sex attraction and I went to a pastor to get help. And I would never come to you for help. And here's why. Um, and he understood some of it, but again, it just turned into like a doctrinal thing later on. And it was a little sad because it was another Reformed church, and I grew up Reformed. This guy was a convert in his 30s or something, and he was trying to like cite Reformed theology. I mean, I'm like, I know all these things. I can cite it back to you better. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah. You're not touching my
It's
heart.
how
You're
you
not
talk to
touching the
people.
heart. You're not bringing the Holy Spirit inside of the conversations.
Yeah.
Just like, hey, this is the quick answer that I've got for you through
Like you're
doctrine.
not
And it sounds
reflecting
very smart.
Jesus at
Who
all.
cares about sounding smart? Like at the end of the day, we're humans. We need to be able to engage in a truth that will not only transform our minds, but that will actually transform our hearts and then change our minds as well, right? And
Yeah,
if you're not able to do that through the doctrine that you're regurgitating, then it's not working. You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah,
And the
like I don't know if you struggle too. Like something I always with a lot still is like I know something up here, but I don't really believe it, or I don't really know it down here. So like how do
Mhm.
you bridge that gap? I don't know. Is that something you struggle with too
Oh yeah,
sometimes?
yeah, no, it's a very good question. I think I I think I keep it super simple. I come back to being like, Jesus, you're the Son of God. You're the one that created me. You're the one, you know my situation. You know where I'm at. And then if it's really, I mean, I wonder what those complicated ones are for you. I think we all have them, but it's like, Lord,
Yeah.
just keep on renewing my heart and my mind. If this is something that I need to learn, if this is something that you're pushing on me to grow into, then renew my mind, renew my thoughts, make this be something that actually touches my heart versus if it hurts your heart, it should be able to hurt mine as well. And that's not always the case. I don't
Yeah.
have the same grace as God does, right? But
Yeah. Yeah, not this side of heaven. Um, yeah, so for me, it's been more issues of questions about like, okay, I've spent a lot of time processing what happened in my childhood and how that affected me, and having same-sex attraction. Um, and so I keep like thinking, okay, it's done. Can I be over this now? I mean, that's not how it works.
no.
It's
It,
frustrating
it
as all get
really is
out.
something that you hold, but it once you start, and this has like been my rant from the beginning, but it's like the more you're able to uh, put out your story out there, right? And this is for all the listeners. I hope that kind of hear this, but like as long as you can put the story out there and tell everyone what Jesus has done inside of your life, and yes, this was an issue. This was something that dragged you down, and yet you were delivered. And this is what Jesus has done. And it's not about you, it's about what Jesus did within you. Now you have something that's a lot more powerful because it doesn't depend on you, it depends on him. And I think that when I recount what God has done for me in my life, now I start being like, man, I get puffed up, I get full of energy, and I'm like, man, this is why God is so amazing. This is why
Yeah,
the goodness of God is here. And so I think that that's what people need to remember is like you feel like the problem is your same-sex attraction or whatever your problem may be, but really it's like what has God told you? What does God want to do with you? Who does God say you are? And now you have something that you can that you can almost recall and remember and make that your ultimate truth because the sin is not the truth. That's just a lie that the devil's calling us into. Let's remember the real truth, right? So it's almost kind of re-engaging the reality of who we are in Christ.
yeah,
I don't know if that makes
yeah.
sense or not, but
No, it does. I mean, I keep remembering, like, I forget all the time. Sometimes I go back to some of my old journals and read through them, and I'm like, oh, yeah, this is exactly the path how God brought me out of depression or brought me, like, helped me realize that I was not really dealing with same-sex attraction and being molested like I needed to be. Like, this is the exact path, and this is how he brought me out. And I know lots of people would say it just like it's a series of coincidences, but at some point, there's so many coincidences. Like, I can't really hit the lottery 20 times in a row.
hmm
Like, I can't have all these coincidences unless there's someone actually doing it. And so then I see like how God has been working here and here and here and here. Um, and it really helps remind me of his grace. I mean, all throughout the Bible, you see the Israelites needed to remind themselves all the time about what God did. I I mean, I want to tell myself, oh, I'd be better than the Israelites wandering in the desert after they left Egypt. I mean, constantly forgetting who God is, they're like making golden calves, all sorts of things. And like there's a pillar of fire and cloud right
right
there.
there. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
uh, and I want to think I'm not. I know I do the exact same thing.
hmm
Um, So, I mean, that's not always comforting that, yeah, I constantly forget who God is and how he helps me. Um, I
But
wonder if that's just
coming,
our human, you know.
no, yeah, but coming back to the source of truth is super important. Yeah, I mean, I had great conversation. I have to go soon, so let's close this up
Yeah.
here. But thank you for listening if we post this, and we'll talk to you guys again soon.
Thanks for tuning in to Real Life Men. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who you think it would speak to also. Please subscribe and leave a review for more honest conversations about manhood, identity, and real life. This podcast is brought to you by Fahrenheit Mentoring. Please visit our website at fahrenheitmentoring.org to listen to other shows and to learn more about our course on how to be a mentor. Have comments or questions to share? Your question may appear on a future episode. Email us at contact@fahrenheitmentoring.org. Until next time, keep being authentic, keep growing, and keep following our God where He leads you.